This webinar will provide a brief summary of the updates made to the 2021 Rigid Pavement Design Manual. If you have any questions about our pavement manuals, you're welcome to contact me, Mary Jane Hayden, at the email address shown here, and it'll also be on the final slide of this presentation. So this webinar will describe the changes that we made for the 2021 Rigid Pavement Design Manual and also provide some of the rationalization behind those changes. So we updated the chapters shown here on this slide, chapters 3, 5, and 10. Any chapter not listed here had no changes made from the previous version of the manual. Just to orient you when you're looking through the manual online, you can quickly tell where we've made a change by looking for the vertical lines on the side of the page. This indicates that an edit was made to the text adjacent to the line. I'll go over each of the changes made for the 2021 Rigid Pavement Design Manual in this webinar, but for future reference, this is a good way of identifying updates in our manuals. Also, within this webinar, you'll be seeing the marked up version of our changes as we go through them all. Just to explain the colors you'll see, red underlined text indicates new language that's been added, blue strike-through text is a deletion, the teal double strike-through is where we've moved existing language somewhere else in the document, and the purple double underlined text shows where the existing language was moved to. Our first update is in Chapter 3, which is the chapter on the pavement thickness design process for new construction. Under the District Coordination section, we've added a bullet to the list for district drainage that says you need to involve the drainage office if you have a project with curb and gutter. This is because certain curb inlet tops create constructability issues with the concrete paving machine. Specifically, curb inlet types 5, 6, 9, and 10 are the ones that create issues, and the drainage manual has been updated to provide guidance on restricting the use of these types of inlets on concrete pavement projects. So by adding the bullet here in the rigid manual, we're closing that communication loop between the pavement engineer and the drainage engineer. So to help you understand what this constructability issue is, let's look at the Type 5 curb inlet as an example. The other inlets have the same issue, with just slightly different dimensions or configurations. The issue is related to this reinforced concrete block that supports the grate. When the paving machine moves through this area, the block will be in the way of the paver, so the contractor will have to stop the paver and make some sort of accommodation here in the front of the inlet. This can be done, but if we can use a different type of curb inlet to avoid the issue altogether, we need to do that. Then the paving machine can continue right on down the curb line with no interruption. And to help really visualize everything that's going on here, let's look at a sectional view of the Type 5 inlet. The problem really lies with this small area here. The top of the grate is 5 inches above the top of the concrete support block. So that's 5 inches of pavement at a width of 10.5 inches that needs to be paved. And let's remember that our minimum thickness of concrete pavement is 8 inches, so at a minimum there's a 3-inch difference here. So again, the contractor is capable of constructing around this type of inlet, and if your drainage engineer says that a Type 5, 6, 9, or 10 inlet is the absolute only option for your project due to some specific conditions, then they can be used, but you will need to include a detail in your plans to tell the contractor how to construct around these areas. The only other update to Chapter 3 was an improvement to Figure 3.1, which is our climate region map. There were no changes made to the content of this map. All the numbers of the merocells and the climate regions are unchanged. What we updated were the colors used for the cells and the text within the map. The previous version had some cells that were very hard to read due to the color combination. As you can see here, even when you zoomed in, the numbers were still fuzzy. So while we were making other improvements to this chapter, we wanted to go ahead and fix this map and make it easier to read. So some of the colors of the merocells were adjusted, and we made the text black instead of gray. So now if you zoom in, you should be able to read every merocell number. The only change we made in Chapter 5 was to the section on tie bars. It was brought to our attention that the information on tie bar spacing in the rigid manual was different from what was noted in the standard plans. As you can see here, the old text that we've deleted says that number 5 bars are spaced at 30 inches. But if we looked in the standard plans, index 350-001, the notes tell us that number 5 bars are to be spaced at 38 inches. So there was a discrepancy between the two documents which needed to be fixed. The index is correct, and instead of correcting the value in the rigid manual, we decided it would be better to remove the duplication. So now we simply refer to the standard plans for standard tie bar sizes and spacings. So coming off the heels of fixing a discrepancy due to duplication of information, we looked at Chapter 10 where there was a lot of information that was redundant to the standard plans. Again, we decided to remove the duplicate information and just refer to the standard plans since that's the most appropriate place for the information to live. So you can see how we've modified the text of section 10.2 here to only refer to standard plans index 353-001. To remove all the duplicated information, we deleted table 10.1, which listed the slab repair and replacement criteria. This is already found on sheet 2 of index 353-001. And the remaining redundant information was found in figures 10.1 through 10.4 of the Rigid Manual, and so we deleted those too. You can find them on sheet 1 of index 353-001. So this was just a cleanup to only have concrete slab repair and replacement criteria shown in one document. This concludes the webinar on the updates for the 2021 Rigid Pavement Design Manual. If you have any questions about the manual, please feel free to contact me at the email address shown here. Thank you for listening.